Join me as I dive into the wild world of nuclear reactors and challenge myself to explain what a meltdown would really look like if it happened in 2024. The possibility of a nuclear reactor meltdown is a constant concern for many of us, and for good reason. The environmental and societal impacts of such an event would be catastrophic, to say the least. That's why it's essential to understand what would happen if a meltdown were to occur in 2024, and what we can do to prevent it. In the early hours of March 15, 2024, a series of critical failures began to unfold at a nuclear power plant in the United States. The plant, which had been in operation for over 3 decades, had a history of safety concerns and near misses. However, despite these red flags, the plant's operators and regulators had become complacent, ignoring warning signs and failing to implement adequate safety measures. On that fateful day, a combination of human error, design flaws, and unexpected natural events created the perfect storm that would ultimately lead to disaster. As the reactors began to overheat, the plant's safety systems failed to kick in, and the operators were caught off guard. A series of miscommunications and misunderstandings delayed the response, allowing the situation to spiral out of control. It wasn't until the reactors had already reached critical levels that the authorities were alerted, and even then, the response was slow and inadequate. Meanwhile, the media was caught off guard, struggling to report on the unfolding crisis. Conflicting information and misinformation spread like wildfire, causing widespread panic and confusion. The scientific community, too, was caught in the chaos as experts scrambled to understand the situation and provide guidance to the authorities. As the meltdown gained momentum, the authorities were faced with an impossible decision: to risk a potential catastrophe by attempting to cool the reactors, or to evacuate the surrounding area and risk spreading the radioactive contamination further. It was a choice between 2 worst-case scenarios, and one that would ultimately have far-reaching consequences. The most dramatic moment of the meltdown came when the operators made the heart-wrenching decision to vent the reactors, releasing radioactive materials into the atmosphere. It was a last-ditch effort to prevent a complete meltdown, but one that would have devastating consequences for the environment and the people in the surrounding area. As the operators struggled to contain the disaster, the authorities were forced to launch a massive evacuation effort, relocating thousands of people from the surrounding area. It was a logistical nightmare, with roads clogged and resources stretched to the breaking point. Meanwhile, the scientific community was working around the clock to develop a plan to contain the radioactive contamination and prevent further spread. In the aftermath of the meltdown, the world was left to pick up the pieces and try to make sense of the disaster. The lessons learned were harsh, but essential: that complacency and neglect can have catastrophic consequences, and that the safety of nuclear power plants must always be our top priority. That's all for today's video. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the wild world of nuclear reactors. If you've got thoughts on nuclear safety, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about this topic, be sure to check out my other videos on nuclear energy and safety.